you tonight. Today is Thursday. It is March 26th. I am Marisol Quevedo Rerucha. I am the daughter of Mexican immigrants. My grandparents came from Baja California, Sonora, and Durango. My parents were born here in the United States. I'm from San Diego, California. I am the mother of three children, three daughters, and two granddaughters. The purpose of our show is we just do a nightly restorative check-in, and what it's really been this week, it's been conversations about how people are doing, how it is that we are not just how it is that we're dealing with our current situation with COVID and having to be home, the changes with homeschooling our children, the fears that are happening, but also just really how it is people are living their lives and really trying, I think, their best to be the best version of ourselves. On Monday, we had Vivek Dukes talk to us. And what I've taken from that time together was she talked to us and urged us to use this time to center down and to really clean out our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual space. To use this time to do some cleaning of our physical space, but also of this space, of the most important space of ourselves. On Tuesday night, we had Pedro Terrazas join us, and he talked to us about how our voices represent not just ourselves, but those of all the people that have loved us and poured into us. We are the dreams of our ancestors, and we are doing the work now and dreaming about our future generations, seven generations forward. Last night, we had Liz Bonet join us, Liz Corona Bonet, who talked to us really openly about anxiety and about grief and her 10.5-year journey on mental health. And just really authentically showed up to share with us with the hopes that her story, and I think that's what all of this is, the hopes that what is being shared here is in a way will help you connect, will connect with somebody and continue to give us hope and help us build peace. So what I'm going to share, I'm going to do something a little different today. I got this really great blog post from Philly 7th Ward that I know Sharif El-Mekki is a part of, and this is by Hillary Beard. And she wrote 9 great examples of self-love during the time of coronavirus. I've been having conversations because specifically our Black and Brown communities are being challenged even more during this time. And I think it's something that we need to continue to look at once we start getting back to life and start rebuilding. Our Black and Brown communities are more vulnerable. We have higher rates of chronic diseases. You think about asthma, heart issues, diabetes. We live in areas that could potentially be more polluted, which leaves us more vulnerable. So she talked about, okay, in this time, there's things that we can do. We have power. So these were her 9 recommendations. Number 1, she said, make a plan. So make a plan for your life. Make a plan. If you got to go out to the grocery store, make that list. What is it that you need to make? Before this happens again, create your plan with your family members. Here in California, because we have earthquakes, that's one of the things that my family has talked about. Like, who is the person outside of California who we would connect with to let them know that we're okay, that could be our person. And also, one of the things that she talked about was getting a hold of your health. So taking that medication that you haven't been taking, going to the doctors, really focusing on taking care of yourself the way that you should, which leads to number 3, which was stop smoking. We know that coronavirus attacks the lungs, but aside from that, smoking is something that is just harmful to your lungs, period. And in that weakened state, the coronavirus is something that could attack. Then she talks about lessening your stress and really the importance of fully resting when it's time to go to sleep. So turning off the lights, putting on a sleep mask, getting a massage potentially, listening to calming sounds, using aromatherapy, and really enjoying, engaging all of your senses, really enjoying delicious food. Her 5th recommendation for really living in self-love during this time, promoting self-love, is to, she says, ditch your remote. So put away the media, put away the TV, put away all of, you know, the hysteria of what's going on, but also just like be present with yourself, be present with your family. She shares that research shows that Americans of color get less sleep than white Americans do. So really important for all of us, regardless, but all of our race, but for all of us to get our sleep. Number 7, eat foods that strengthen your immune system. So that means reducing man-made sugar, which can depress your immune system, and eating lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and legumes, and fewer processed and fried foods. She also talks about moving, which I love this. Dance around the house, take a walk, get your exercise bike out, be active in your contributions to your health. And this last one was actually my favorite because it's something that I talked about. Excuse me. Sorry. I have really bad allergies, and with all of the I'm moving into my office upstairs, it's been kicking up the dust. So I apologize for that. So the thing that she says, honor your inner wisdom. And for me, that means like really follow your intuition, listen to yourself. Now is the time to build that. So I want to thank Hillary Beard for her for this blog, and you can sign up for it. This was again Philly's 7th word. So I went into Philly's 7th word and I get their message in my inbox. So really, really great information. I'm going to share a quote today, and this is again from my Martin Luther King book. And this to me, the reason why it spoke to me today is because it talks about how connected we are. All men are interdependent. Every nation is an heir of a vast treasury of ideas and labor to which both the living and the dead of all nations have contributed. Whether we realize it or not, each of us lives eternally in the red. We are everlasting debtors to known and unknown men and women. When we arise in the morning, we go into the bathroom where we reach for a sponge, which may be provided for us by a Pacific Islander. We reach for a soap that was created by a European. Then at the table, we drink coffee, which is provided for us by a South American, or tea by a Chinese, or cocoa by a West African. Before we leave for our jobs, we are already beholden to more than half of the world. This also made me think about the fact that we can still get fresh fruits and vegetables. The reason why we can still get them is that a lot of our farm workers are still working. Lowest paid, it can be a dangerous job, and they're still working to provide for us. So I want to, one of the other things that Vivette talked to us about, and Pedro also, and Liz, was about gratitude. And just take a moment of gratitude for all of the people that are working to make sure that we're still being provided for, not just our fruits and vegetables, but our food, the bank tellers, social services that are open, all of those that are working in supermarkets, our first responders, just living in gratitude, and for everybody around the world that is still working to be able to provide for us. So before we move on to our guests, we're going to practice our breathing exercise. Remember, we're going to do this once a night. So it's 4-7-8. So we're going to inhale for 4 seconds. You're going to hold for 7 seconds. And then you're going to release for 8. So we do this once a day, once or twice a day. And tomorrow night is Friday. We're going to have Anjali Laforian, who gave us this tip on our Spanish show last week. This not only reduces stress, but it helps us recalibrate and get refocused. So when I start counting, you're going to breathe in, and then I'll count 2, 3, 4. And then I'll tell you inhale, and then I'll count, hold, and then release. You ready? Okay, here we go. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to welcome our guest for tonight, Leticia Cazares. Leticia, welcome to our show.
Hello there. Blessings.
Blessings to you. Leticia, so I provide very little to our guests that come on because I really want this to be an authentic conversation. So first of all, could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. My name is Leticia Cazares, and Marisol is a dear friend of mine, and I'm happy to be here with you and just having a conversation. I'm going to follow Marisol's format and let you know some background. I'm first generation on my father's side. He um, came here when he was 8 years old from Chihuahua, Mexico. My mom was born here in San Diego, and they married in 1973. And I was raised here in San Diego. They are community leaders and community activists, and all three of the children followed in their footsteps one way or another. So I'm very proud to say I'm also an activist. I'm also a public health professional and have been in public health for about 20 years. So everything that's going on with COVID-19 is very much close to the work that I've been doing for many years and what I'm working on now as a public health educator and as a lecturer at San Diego State. I'm also have been in recovery for 20 years, so I'm very proud of that, and gives me a lot of perspective and insight, and really has kind of helped me in terms of empathy and understanding. Yeah, so I am here in San Diego and very excited about our conversation.
So, being in public health, are you surprised about this pandemic coming? Are you surprised about either the lack of response that we have? What are your first reactions to this from a professional standpoint?
Yeah, professionally, I am not surprised that we are not as prepared as I would have liked and we would have liked. Number one, public health in general, in the field of public health, and specifically when it comes to infectious disease surveillance, a lot of people just don't know what it is. A lot of people don't know what public health is and the various fields of it. So I think that's number one, the fact that the general public doesn't even really have a clear understanding of what we do in public health and what goes into the
Now,
what's that?
can you give us a quick breakdown?
Yeah. So public health, I mean, I'm going to just quite simply is it's the study of and uh, prevention and improvement of community wellness and health. So it's basically works in research. And that includes disease surveillance and looking at, all the infectious diseases, including HIV, the swine flu, the other one, the bird. bird flu. Oh my gosh, I just mind blanked. But it's researching that. It's also at health
The
education.
H1N1,
What's that?
H1N1,
H1N1.
is that the
And
bird?
yeah. And so, yes, thank you. So, health education is another component of that. So, um, educating the public about, healthy eating, about diabetes prevention, cardiac health disease, HIV/AIDS prevention. So that's all public health. So the difference between public health and medical and healthcare is medical care is a reaction. So you already have a health condition and you go and get treated. So that's medical. Public health is prevention. So what do you need to learn? What do you need to prepare for? What do you need to know in order to prevent a medical condition or, uh, um, you know, get infected from an infectious disease? So that's the difference. And so the number one is we didn't, a lot of people don't know what we do. And I think we did a poor job. The public health field does a poor job of educating the public of what we do and how important it is to daily life, but the health and well being of entire populations, including the world. So that's number one. Number two, I think local governments just have not had the infrastructure or the connection to communities, including community organizations, to get the word out as quickly as they should. And that is has always been a challenge. And I think we really need to ensure that our local governments have connections and investing with grants and funding to our community resources so that these are the trusted messengers. These are the folks that are going to get the information out quickly. And obviously, in this time, as you know, like as we've been hearing, the rate of infections has risen, like tripled in the last 6 days. And so the sooner we can get the information out, the better. So that's the other thing, is not having connections with community organizations or those trusted messengers. The third one is it's the administration. I'm sorry, but the Trump administration pretty much took out and defunded and a lot of programs within our public health agencies like the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. So the fact that, a lot of research and a lot of funding for research or for vaccines, for treatment was pretty much eliminated. So the response and the lack of, as you've seen, supplies to our hospitals is a direct result of lack of funding and investment in our public health agencies. Those are the three biggies.
So thank you for that information. What I'm also, I just want to know, because we haven't seen each other, and I think also like carrying that knowledge that you have. How are you? How are you? How is your heart?
Oh, thank you for asking that, and that's a question and the line of questioning that I try to do more of these days because I think it's really important. Something that's come up for me in the last few days is vulnerability and how in at this time how important it is that we be honest not only with ourselves but with our loved ones and be vulnerable and share. And I have to say that I just as somebody who preaches that and promotes that, I have not done a very good job of that. And I'll just be real. I had a panic attack a couple of days ago. I just posted about it in the spirit of being authentic and also knowing that if I share my story and I share my feelings and what I'm going through, that maybe it'll inspire others to do the same, maybe not necessarily publicly, but with their families. So, 2 days ago, I wasn't well. I think with in in addition to my own fears, and I think I am an empath. Well, I know I'm an empath, so I feel my intuition and my ability to feel other people's emotions is something that I've I call it a blessing and a curse, because and sometimes if I'm not careful, I absorb people's emotions, and so everything that's happening, I had a little empathy overload. Just hearing about people's circumstances and situations, the job losses. I'm at San Diego State, and I'm a board member at a community college here, Southwestern College, and just hearing about the impact on our students, especially our low income students and low income students of color, for sure, because that's the majority of our students. And so learning about people that have been diagnosed. I have friends that have been diagnosed with coronavirus, and I myself was exposed to coronavirus on election night, and I had to, self quarantine for a while, and still doing it. I'm on day 14. But all of that just was so heavy on my heart, and I, you know just the fear just set in, and I just started I started to feel the chest tightening, and the breath starting to come quicker, and couldn't catch my breath. And luckily, I have had anxiety, diagnosed with anxiety years ago, and luckily I have the tools, and I knew what to do. But the last couple of days, other tools is, I went back to basics, and I'm in a recovery, so another tool is, the recovery practices, and that includes spiritual practices, so a lot of meditation, a lot of quiet reflection and journaling, and sitting in front of my altar, and really connecting with my ancestors, and calling upon my ancestors and spirit guides and creator to to be with me, to wrap me up in their love and their protection, as they always have. And I finally, came out of that period, just last night, actually. And to one of the points that you just read off in terms of how to take care of yourself. My mom and I started dancing, and we listened to DJ D Nice on Instagram, which I highly recommend everybody go to Instagram and follow him. He has his clubs, and we started dancing. So today, my heart is full of hope, and I've been restored to my center, and I am, kind of back to my positive self, and I can be concerned for what's happening, but not worried because of that. And so I'm doing well today, but we are just in the beginning of this, and as a public health professional, I can say that we haven't seen anything yet. I'm afraid to tell you that. This week, from what the experts say, this week is probably going to be one of the hardest weeks if we, as collectively, do not follow the precautions. We're gonna see death, a lot of it.
And so this week, as far as like the number of people who are contracting
Hmm. Yep.
and, and the precautions, so people not staying home.
Right. Not staying home, and not taking it seriously. And that's something I also struggle with, is trying to be compassionate with people in their own coping of the fear, because that is something that I've had a hard time with, knowing what I know as a professional, and wanting to scream through social media that, like, you can't be going to the beaches in crowds, you can't be going out every day and you can't be going having parties. Even if it's your family, you shouldn't be having parties. But fear is an interesting thing. People respond to it differently. And, as somebody who studied psychology as well, people respond with denial.
Mm.
They don't want to see it. They don't want to know that this is that serious. And then, you have people who are in defiance, and they just, for whatever reason, they believe they're invincible, and they don't want to be told what to do. And so, while I want to be compassionate for people's circumstances, some people can't be at home. It's unsafe for them. So they need to get out. We've seen domestic violence go up. We've seen child abuse go up, and this is real. So I want to I have empathy for that. I understand different coping mechanisms, but while at the same time try to balance that with real talk. And real talk for the collective good is stay home as much as possible and follow the guidelines, to the best of your ability, because it's not only protecting you, but it's protecting those that are most vulnerable. I mean, one of the things that I try to get across is, like, you might be a carrier and you're not having symptoms.
Yeah.
You can have it on you, on your clothes, on things that you bring into the house, your shoes, groceries. For 24 to 72 hours, it's on those things. And even if you never develop the symptoms, you're taking it home to your loved ones and to the elderly and to those with conditions. So it's really something that I'm trying to balance, compassion for people and where they're at with this, and the collective good of making sure that I speak real, with people, and get the word out as assertively as I can, to protect people.
Well, and I could imagine that the balance is also hard because you struggle with anxiety. You know things like you were saying, you had an anxiety attack. You take on the emotions of others, but then you also have this knowledge about public health. So I can imagine that balance is very hard to maintain.
Yeah, it is. And even with my own parents, oh my God, Marisol, if you know my parents, and just it's I mean, so I recognize and I experience personally just how difficult it is. Theoretically, it's one thing to practice social distancing. Don't go to the beach or parks when it's crowded. It's easier said than done for people, and especially those who are active, and elderly active, like my parents. Just trying to keep my mom at home, has been difficult. So I get it, and I'm very firm with them. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So it's frustrating, but you know what? Unfortunately, the next few weeks, I think it's going to scare a lot of people, and it's going to scare people to stay home and really, do what they need to do. So, and unfortunately, that's what it takes, and that's the whole issue with public health, and why it's so hard to get money and funding for public health programs, prevention programs, is because, when we don't see the results, or we don't see the impact, or it doesn't affect us as individuals, it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
It's not something that we can touch or see or feel, until it actually happens to you and your families. You're not paying attention. So, it's really difficult to get that message across, because of that. But, we'll start to see over the next couple of weeks how people react to and start, heeding to the guidelines.
So and the guidelines that you're talking about, they're the CDC recommendations about washing your hands, about keeping like the proper way to wash your hands, making sure that, that if you have any exposure, that you're going under quarantine, that you're not leaving your house unless absolutely necessary to go get food, that when you're bringing items in, that you're cleaning them. All of those are the components that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is, that I feel like it hasn't really the specificity around families getting together
Yeah.
is really hard, especially for close families and big families that live in the same area. It is really difficult, but this, is something that I feel like we need to talk more about. The reality is, the elderly, should be literally isolated and quarantined to themselves unless there is one caretaker that has to take groceries, watch them, be there, stay there with them. That is it. There should be no grandchildren, no other siblings, no other guests going to that house, period. Not inside, not even, literally shouldn't even be outdoors in the backyard, because some people have to walk through the house in order to get to the backyard.
Yeah.
So people think it's safe. Oh, we'll be in the backyard for a barbecue, because we're outdoors and we'll practice social distancing. You've touched things, your shoes have touched things, while you go through the house. So there should absolutely not be any kind of gathering of families. And that's the hardest thing for especially close families and large families like mine. So, that is one area. The other thing I want to talk about really quickly is, Google what precautions healthcare providers and healthcare workers are doing. To me, this is something, if you are have a couple of people coming in and out, and it's just something you can't help, then start practicing what healthcare workers do. And that is, and I just got a text today, because I am going to be moving in with my boyfriend, who is in an essential job, who works at a hospital, naval hospital. And eventually that hospital is going to be opened up to patients with coronavirus. And so we're getting prepared and ready for that time, so that if when he comes home, he has to leave. He's got to um, change his clothing before he comes into the house. He has to leave his shoes in his car. So have a change of clothes with him every day he goes out to work. Before he comes into the house, he leaves those clothes and those shoes in his house. He wipes down with disinfectant wipes before he walks through the door, and he goes straight to the shower and takes a shower. That's what we have to practice every day. And so I would recommend that people look that up and start practicing that.
Well, and I know, there's a shortage of those disinfectant wipes, and there's a shortage of bleach. So I
Mhm.
think there's also going to be a limit to what we're going to really be able to do to protect ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's reality. And I understand that. And whatever people can do, even if it's to keep their clothes and shoes away, that's more than, that's a lot. And that's going to go a long way in protecting you.
So I think, so I'm going to be very honest with you, because I appreciate what it is that you're sharing. I do feel a lot of anxiety and worry now.
Yeah.
And um, and I think that that's good, because it's a reminder. I have a brand new grandbaby, and I was talking to my daughter today, and she was talking about like wanting to take the baby over to see my mom. And I told her, I said, you know what, for everybody, we all need to be safe. Like pictures, video. I I, I haven't met the baby yet. I I want to meet her. I want to hold her in my arms. I want to hold my mom in my arms again. And so if that means having to stay away for however long we need to stay away, then that's what I'm willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you're right, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard. Um, I'm going to change our theme a little bit on it. I want to keep that close to me. One of the, I've learned a lot from you spiritually. You know, I've known, our parents have known each other for years. But you and I have gotten to know each other over the last couple of years. And you have, and I don't know if it's because of your experience in recovery, but you definitely have a very strong spiritual path. How did that start for you?
Mm. So, ever since I was little, I felt I was there was almost like this connection with people who have passed away, um, and my very first experience was I was 9 years old, and my uncle passed away, and it was the first close death in my family that I experienced. And not long after, I felt his presence at his house. I was his daughter is my age, and we played a lot, and I felt his presence. Um, that actually scared me a little, well, a lot at that point, and I kind of shut it down for many years until my best friend was killed when I was 19. And he was shot and killed just up the street from my house. And I felt him as well. And it was at that time that I realized, like, this is something that, I need to acknowledge. And because of him and that presence, I felt like I needed to really explore the spiritual uh, side of me, really, which I never really had been in touch with. So over the years, I've been open. And then with recovery in 2000, that really helped me to connect to, my higher power, which I call God. And in recovery, it's just a higher power, and people can call that higher power whatever they want. I choose to call him God. And so that connection really, I think, started it. And it was in recovery. You look to that connection to keep you sober. You turn your life and your will over to the care of God. You work on your trust and faith in God. And I think that really, that daily, regular connection helped me. On top of that is my love of the outdoors. And at the same time, I started going outdoors more and getting into, when I got sober, I started going camping and hiking. And that's my church, y'all. That's it. For me, that's where I find my God. That's where I find the clarity and the connection I need. And so, really, through recovery and the outdoors is how I maintained a spiritual connection. But I'd say it was my uh, 2017 when I left my job. I was experiencing internal angst. Something about my job just wasn't working anymore, and there was something inside me, that was just calling out, like, that I needed to do something different. That my purpose, was still something I needed to find, or a new purpose, because I wasn't being fulfilled. And at that time, I really felt being called to do intuitive, work with women, and I felt like empowerment and having conversations, and sharing experience, strength, and hope with other women was something I wanted to do. So that's the path I took in 2017, and really just started to develop even more so, and looking into indigenous healing practices. I myself started going to a curandera and shaman, and really started to delve in a little bit more. And ultimately, it was last year when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, Mari. It was a difficult time, but I feel very fortunate to have been prepared for my breast cancer. Had I not had those spiritual practices and that connection to my higher power, it would have been a different story going through cancer treatment. And my perspective and the connection I have with my ancestors and spirit guides, because they're all around me and I feel them. And man, they were there every step of the way. And I, definitely had no problem opening up that portal, spiritual portal to them. And even today, I struggle a little bit because I had a session with a curandera last week or 2 weeks ago, and she affirmed what I had been already feeling, and she said, your ancestors and spirit guides love you so much, and their protection is so strong, and yet at the same time they won't leave you alone. um you are caught in the middle, and I'm feeling like you're caught in the middle between that world of death where you were so afraid of going and had a foot in at some point last year, and your new life. Now that I'm cancer free, I have a new chapter, a new life I want to live. But having that portal open to them, um, part of the problem has been the fact that they've kept me and held on to me wanting, and she used the words, they're downloading so much information to you because you've kept that portal open, that you haven't been able to move forward as much as you'd like. But that's a long-winded response, but I felt like it was important to share just my recent spiritual experience as a way to respond to that.
So I'm gonna share something with you. I got a text message. So Colleen, I'm gonna share your message. I think it's important for her to hear. So Colleen Cook is you're gonna meet her one day. She is
I love you.
girl,
I love you.
like I almost don't have to say like immediately my heart was hers and like recognized her soul. But she says raw, honest words have her in tears, and she's gained so much from you.
Mm,
Um, and
thank you.
I just wanted to share that with you. So the other thing, Leticia, that
Mm,
that blows my mind is that I'm getting your feedback, right?
a little bit, yeah.
Not only were you diagnosed with cancer, but it was right after you ran for school board. So it was like this domino of
Mhm,
effects
mhm.
of things. And it was a hard run. It was a hard campaign, and you won the seat. And then it was like right in that time,
Month after.
you had just started a relationship with your boyfriend. Right? I mean, you guys were, I don't know how many months in you were. Um, but when so there were just all of these things, and I think about, ooh, just a heavy time. And what are the things that you've gained or that you've learned from this time? Because I just have this feeling like whatever that is, whatever those learnings are from that, like that difficulty and that harshness and that like I feel like we're all kind of going through that time right now.
Totally. Absolutely. And I thank you for that because I wanted to have an opportunity to kind of do a full circle and, kind of focus on the intent of these calls and having it be restorative and instead of anxiety inducing, which, I absolutely didn't want to do. It just kind of went there and, but that's reality right now,
Real.
that's real. That's what's going on, and we can't.
Authenticity, like what you said, girl. We are
Yeah,
authentic, we are real. And the
yeah,
thing is that
yeah,
neither you nor I are going to leave a space feeling that way.
totally. And I think, and that's the challenge, right? And to answer your question, the challenge is how do we stay grounded amidst the chaos and amidst the fear? And that's, what I'll share. You know, I look back at the adversity that I experienced. I definitely experienced PTSD as a result of, the death of my best friend when I was 19. It definitely kicked off a years long of addiction to alcohol and drugs. And, you know, with one of the most difficult years, two of the most difficult years post recovery, and then with the campaign and cancer diagnosis a month after. And just as I am ready to start my new life, this happens. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I scream every once in a while, like, WTF? Like,
Mhm.
I just don't, know, they say, God doesn't give us anything we can't handle. And I, I'm sorry, don't trust me so much because
Right?
I really, I've had a lot and I'm tired. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I look back on all that and I know intuitively and in my heart and in my spirit that, I have the strength of my ancestors. I am my ancestors' wildest dream. And I believe that I am on this earth to really promote healing and hope, and in order to do that I have to experience it myself.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. I mean, through that experience, the empathy and compassion mixed with, my desire and passion to help others and to serve, um, really is what I was put on this earth to do. And I think that knowing, that connection to that inner knowing, that is really what has kept me grounded through all of this. It's most definitely the spiritual connection, hands down, number one. It's spiritual connection and maintaining that connection in whatever way that looks like for you. For me, it's like I said before, the outdoors, it's daily meditation. It works. Let me tell you, it works. If you haven't started meditating, just try it. There's Insight Timer is a good one. They have 5-minute guided meditations, absolutely works. I would say, spiritual connection through meditation, through prayer. If you already have your own practice, you already know this, but if you don't, start it. I'd say that's number one. Number two, it's resilience. And that's a little harder to describe in terms of how to gain resilience. But I will say it's, for me, what that resilience looks like. It's having a reference point of other adversity, other life difficulties that I've overcome. So if I can remember a time when I had it really rough, and I reflect on that,
Yeah.
and I think, really reflect on it and really feel the same feelings that I
Mhm.
had of that experience, and I think back to that time, and I play it all through my mind of what happened, and I see myself at the other side overcoming that experience. If I can keep that at the forefront of my mind when I go through another time like I did with cancer. So
Mhm.
during cancer, I look back at my recovery when when I first got through recovery, when I learned about the death of my friend. I mean, there were several. I was sexually assaulted um, during the time of my drinking. If I can look back at all those times, and I can sit here and say that I overcame them, and I was strong, and I'm sorry, and I'm stronger for them, then I'm going to get through it. And so I say that to all of you. That's a practice that can show you how resilient you are. If you can take that difficult time in your life that you've already experienced, and have overcome it, and you replay that in your mind, you have resilience, and you have it in it. We all have it in us. It's just a matter of how aware we are of that ability to overcome and that strength we have. It's tapping into that, and you already have it. So I'd say tapping into resilience got me through, and really remembering those experiences before and how I've overcome them. The third thing is being authentic, and asking for help, sharing how I'm feeling. That is so hard. Oh my God, it took me what, 40 years. It was only like 6 years ago that I actually started to open up my heart to receive love.
Mhm.
Um, and that was from my friends and family. And I really started to open up to people and say, "Hey, I'm having a hard time. Like, it's messed up right now. Like, my brain, like my mind, like I'm going to the dark side. Like can you just listen, hear me out? Can we go for a walk? Whatever that is." I'd say, to all of you, keep doing that and do more of that, cuz when you do that, it opens up other people's hearts, and it inspires other people to do the same, and it really is a collective healing that happens when you do that. So I definitely say being real, being honest with yourself and others, and being authentic and asking for help, is another thing that got me through. The support network, the
Knowledge, and I think this is something that happens because you've overcome so much. But the things that you mentioned, death of somebody that you love that was your age when you were young, then going into recovery and recovering from drug and alcohol um, use, and then having being raped, and then going through the things that we had, either in work, and then and now cancer.
Mhm.
All of those, it's those traumas that happen to us, tragedies, but they don't define us, right? They don't define us in a negative way. And what is so beautiful about who you are in this world is that it's in your life, that it's helped you define and find exactly who it is that you're meant to be in this world. And you're not a victim to the
No.
things that happen to you. And you're not even like here championing as a victor, like you're just continuing to be in the space of gratitude and love and hope.
Mhm.
Like you said, one of the things when you said about asking for help, one of my prayers I pray to our children and to the spirit of the. And one of my gratitudes, and I have to remind myself, like I just say to the spirit of children, thank you for asking for what you need and showing me how to ask and recognize what it is that I need, because there's power in that. Because if anybody even people that I don't know and love, but if anybody were to ask me for something and I knew they were in need and I could do it, without a doubt, I would do it. And so learning that space of grace for myself, like you, and the reason why I think the struggle has to do with ego for me, you know. So I
You know,
just,
that's so important. I'm sorry I just have to say that, especially with children, especially right now, like what an opportunity to model what it looks like to be what it feels like and looks like to be uncertain and afraid, while at the same time having courage to go through that and have conversations with your children about that. Like you can reassure, I just recently, it was so powerful. I have so many uh, recommendations in terms of people to follow on Instagram right now, since a lot of people are offering meditations and podcasts and stuff. But I recently heard, and it was very powerful. Brene Brown just released the podcast called Unlocked. I recommend it, and she talks about this. So this is not from me; this is from her. But it speaks to your point with children. What an opportunity, that we can reassure our children, at the same time, being real about, the fear and the uncertainty, because you're modeling, that you can hold both. And by modeling the fact that you can hold both of those, so being afraid and uncertain while reassuring, um, and teaching practices on how to, stay grounded and centered, builds resiliency. That builds emotional intelligence and resiliency. So, not being afraid to tell your children you're afraid,
yeah.
because that's important.
And I think this conversation, the way that it flowed, Leticia, like we went into your work, we went into like the reality. Let me go this way of how things are happening.
I told you how I'm all over the
Language, you scared me. Then, but then coming back to like this whole process, this is what I think, like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, um, socially strong adults do. Is this is the process that we go through, like we recognize, being able to name it, being able to in a very real way. And so you modeling with with me inviting me um, to work through this, I think is a really beautiful thing to share with our parents and anybody else that happens to view this. And I think you're right. We need to do it with our kids.
Definitely.
If there anybody wants to get a hold of you or contact you, do you have? Is there any way that they can get a hold of you or connect? How can they connect?
Oh yeah, please. I am on Facebook. My name, just my name, Leticia Cazares. And on Instagram, I'm Cazdaz, Cazzdzz. But also, my email, and I don't know if there's a way, but to put it up there, but it's my name, Leticia, Leticia, middle initial, and my last name, Cazares, Cazares, as in Sam, at gmail.com.
So I will make sure that when I post and share this video that I include that if anybody has interest. Leticia, thank you. I love you.
I love you more.
I love you so much. I'm so glad that we were able to connect here.
Yes, and I thank you for inviting me. And I'll be honest, I was a little nervous. I've been a out of sorts, but I think that this is exactly what it happened for a reason, and I'm glad.
Yeah,
So
thank
thank you all, and yeah, be healthy, everyone, and let's work together and come out of this
We
healthy and
will. We will. Healthy and strong. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, 6 to 7 p.m. Dr. Anjali Fori will be with me tomorrow night. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.